You guys hear me? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Good morning, everybody. I will pass the meeting to our secretary, Greg Collins.
Thank you, Stacy. Want to certify the board is properly noticed, and we do have a quorum. We have Stacy, Cheryl, Scott, and Chad virtual. And we have Mark, Joe, and myself here present. And then the second part of this is you have two sets of minutes from the 2/25 regularly scheduled board meeting, and then the special meeting on 3/11. I think everyone's had a chance to go over those minutes. So I've done my part.
Okay. Greg, remind me, do we need a motion to approve the minutes from those meetings? Okay. I move
the minutes.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry?
I just said you're welcome.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I wish I were there in person. Okay, we are going to temporarily pause the general meeting and go into executive session. I have been told that this will take 20 to 30 minutes. I'm guessing 30 minutes. Gary, we'll just come back to this Zoom meeting when we're out, or I guess I should text you. Is that best, Gary?
That's fine.
Okay, I'll text you when we're out of the executive session. So let's all move over to the other Zoom right now.
Can we just say that people can come back? Because I mean, a lot of the owners that are out there aren't gonna know. You know, they're not gonna be able, they're not texting Gary or getting the word to just come back in 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, I would tell them that we expect to be about 30 minutes. That's all I can say. And we'll watch the clock and keep things moving along.
Meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can come back in 30 minutes to the wait of the sitting area. out
Yeah,
there. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's good. And then Gary, you can bring them in when I text you.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll log out of this one and head over to the other Zoom link. So thank you everybody for your patience while we went into executive session. We'll restart the general meeting now. I understand we have a full house today.
There's a few empty chairs, not much.
I wish I could see everybody. So we've continued to work very hard, our board, our staff, maintenance, to keep Tamarron moving forward. You're going to hear today about our software implementation, a lot of fire mitigation work and partnership with our insurance company, upgrades to the fire safety system, just to name a few. So thank you for two owners for their patience and good communication on this. If you have questions, we're always happy to help. Let's get started with the property reports now. Joe, I'm going to hand it to you for our financial review.
Okay. Yeah, put the financial report up on the screen. Okay, so this is our financial reports through the end of April, so the first 4 months of the year. Our liquid assets look very good. I wouldn't say flush with cash, but we're in good shape cash flow wise. The account 108, that Stearns Bank Reserve, that's a couple of CDs that were left over from the program of laddered CDs we used to keep our reserves. And we've been in the process of rolling those out and putting all of our reserves in diversified assets with Edward Jones. And that amount in 108 has been last month, or this month has been cashed out and put into Edward Jones. So you'll see that on the next report. Our current total reserves are $498,670. Accounts receivable, this amount is representative of mostly it's owner assessments. Those were due on April 30th, and we always have straggling with the mail and bulk ACH transfers. We always have the reality hits the first couple of weeks of the year, so that number now is considerably less than that. Scanning down the balance sheet, everything else looks pretty normal. Where are, I can't tell where you are, Gary. You're in, oh, the current, the assets, okay. Fixed assets, it's all our building and property. Going down to liabilities and equity. We've got accounts payable, which is a normal amount there. Deferred, people always ask me what deferred revenue is. This is basically, we bill quarterly, so we accrue on a month-to-month basis the actual receipts of assessment accounts. So that actually, that number there represents May and June, which wasn't accrued at the end of April. Going down further, nothing really to talk about there. Everything's pretty much the way it should be. And so we'll move over from the balance sheet now to the income statement, get to the meat of the matter. Okay, so the first section is our income section. What you see there is, would you scroll back up just a second, Gary, a little bit? Yeah, so the headings are, the first column is year-to-date, current amount through the end of January, in this case, income. As we move down, it'll be expenses. The year-to-date budget column is in, this is typically an estimate of what portion of the budget we would be working towards at this point in the year. Sometimes it's just take the annual budget, divide it by 12 and multiply it by the number of months, in this case 4. In other cases where we have things that are spent or received more seasonally, we might adjust that. So you'll see that as we go down through there. The third column is the annual budget that was approved in October of last year. 404 maintenance revenue, that is a line that we did not budget for. The reason for that is, as of January 1st, the any revenues associated with work done in owners' units used to flow through our accounts. They don't anymore. If you have any work done in your unit, it's billed directly by BHP. So what this is just some leftover straggling payments that were actually from last year, and we didn't get the money until January or later. Let's see, what do we got here? Transfer fees are down. That's a result of fewer sales. The real estate market is a little soft right now, so we're not seeing as many sales. The last item, 472, looks low, and that's because that's a quarterly billing lead lag thing, and that'll catch up. It catches up and then it flows back. It goes up and down throughout the year. At the end of the year, it's evened out. Bottom line on income, slightly unfavorable to budget, but not by a heck of a lot. Now we come to administrative expenses. Insurance, that looks to be over budget, but that's normal because our payments, our finance payments on our property insurance are front loaded. It's 9 payments instead of 12. So that towards the end of the year, that'll that'll even out again when we're the last 3 months of the year, we don't pay to make those payments. Let's see, what else do we have here? 536 web services and also 577 HOA software, both look to be over budget. And that's basically because we pay for packages, software packages in advance on a yearly basis. We don't pay for them by the month. We save money by not having to finance them. So administrative expenses are unfavorable to budget overall, but that's mostly due to the insurance line above that I explained. Personnel expenses, everything looks right on budget there for the most part. 595 workers' compensation. We've got a positive number in that expense, and that's because we got a reimbursement from our previous workman's comp company. We worked with our current overall property and liability insurance broker, USI, to get us a much better deal on workman's compensation insurance. So we're realizing the savings on that right now. So personnel expenses overall is favorable to budget. Now we get into, whoops, yeah. So now we get into 600 accounts. This is operations. This is all the property maintenance, what it takes to keep this property in good shape and running. Building maintenance is quite a bit over budget. The reason for that is we had down in Gamble Oak, we had a unit that was badly flooded by a burst sprinkler line. And there was a big conflict over who was supposed to pay for that. And one of the contractors flew away on us, and we were holding the bag to pay one of our other contractors that we do business with all the time. We split the liability with him, so we had to pay him $11,000, and that's why that account is high. We had no other place to put it. That's where we stuck it. 613 services billed to owners. This is the same. This is the offset of the item in the revenue line. Again, this is we're not billing services to owners anymore because that billing goes directly through BHP, and that's another carryover from last year. Cast iron, 614 cast iron replacements. We had a rash of repairs over this winter. I was talking to BHP about that, and it looks like that's kind of evened out, and hopefully over the rest of the year and definitely over the summer. Bobby was telling me that for some reason those problems tend to occur over the winter more than they do over the summer. So hopefully that evens out a little bit. Snow removal. We had a really dry winter, as you all know. So we spent way under budget on snow removal. Fortunately, because that helped us offset some other costs that were much higher, as you'll see later. Roof and ceiling repairs, that's right at budget, right at overall budget, not the year to date. So that year to date is one of those calculations, but in reality, we completed all of the roof and ceiling repairs that were on the list for this year, and we're done. We won't do any more of those until we get back to the list again in 2026. Grounds, we got some early work done on grounds. So we're pretty much right on budget on that. Plumbing, common area plumbing is on the high side. Part of that is we got if y'all remember the work that was done here in the lodge for the sewer lines that went out into the parking lot. We got a price from, did we get the price from Big Cat, or was that from somebody else? M&R, to scope all the lines in the property, to run cameras down all the lines in the property so we could see where we were at, take a look and see if we were going to have the same issues in High Point, Pinecone, and Gamble Oak as we had in the lodge. We wanted to find that out and see if there was a problem. Bobby may talk about that later, but from a money-wise standpoint, the BHP ran cameras down all the lines in all of the areas and found few problems. So we spent some money to give ourselves a better feeling about that. And, the pages don't match up. Where am I at, Gary? Sorry about this. My paper pages don't line up with the,
On the next page.
yeah, the next page. There we go. Thank you. All right. So going down the line here, not a whole lot of big deal variances going down the line. Temperature monitoring alarms. This is high because we do most of the monitoring in the winter when we know there could be problems. I'll hold questions until the end. Same thing with
649.
yeah, communications, no.
Oh.
So, night and weekend staff.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's another one where we only have staff in the wintertime when we know there could be a lot of problems.
that's a little lower.
Yeah. Yeah. So those things, those two lines, 674 and 649 or 656 are a bit high. But that's mostly because a lot of that work is done in the winter months and on holidays. And so that'll level out again as we move through the summer. The main thing I wanted to point out here was fire mitigation. I think BHP, there's going to be a report on that later, so I won't talk a whole lot about it, but we bit the bullet and did a whole lot of work. You've seen what we've done on the west side of Gamble Oak. Again, I'll let the guys talk about that, but we spent way over budget on that. Maybe an offset with snow removal, spend less there, spend more here. Hopefully that helps us avoid fires. 677, it wasn't budgeted. It was decided we wanted to track electrical work. And so that offsets account 629 above. Carpet clean, 679, carpet cleaning and janitorial, that was just a budget snafu. We put enough money in there for carpet cleaning, but not for janitorial work, which is mostly common areas in the lodge, hallways, and the service centers. So that's going to be an over budget thing. So total operations is quite a bit unfavorable to budget. Hopefully we can get that back under control over the summer and be in better shape towards the end of the year. We're in good shape on utilities, favorable to budget overall. Water and sewer is under budget. That's mostly because we haven't done any irrigation yet. Once we start watering the plants and the grass, we're gonna be over budget on a month-to-month basis until the fall when it backs off again. Electricity, we're always over budget on electricity this time of year because of heating, mostly the heating in the lodge. As we move through the summer, that we won't have such high bills. However, towards the end of the year, I think we're going to probably be over budget because LPEA, you all might have gotten some notice on this on your electric bills. That LPEA authorized a 7.7% average increase in utility rates and electric rates, and they did that after I think it became effective April 1st. And when we inquired with them at budget time, they told us there weren't going to be any raises, but then they raised the rates. So right now we're favorable to budget by a bit. Capital projects, much of this stuff happens in the warmer months, so a lot of it hasn't been done yet. Is that parking lot payment, is that a partial payment? Was that a
That's a
down
down
payment?
payment.
Yeah, okay. The one item I want to point out here is under unplanned capital expenses. The lock project, which I think Cheryl's going to talk about after a bit, was way behind schedule and didn't get completed until sometime this year. And that's when we made our final payments to Durango Lock and Key. So that expense was realized this year while all of the revenue was realized last year. So there you go. Looking down at the bottom line, capital projects is pretty much right on budget. The total bottom line, our total expense of $1,396,000 and change, compared to our total revenue of $1,225,000 gives us a pretty hefty unfavorable to budget at this point in the year. I'll point out that at the end of 2024, we were $201,000 favorable. So if you looked at the last 16 months, we're actually ahead of the game a little bit. We'll see where we are towards the end of the year. Hopefully that deficit reduces and we're in a better situation. But at the moment, you know, you look at that and you say, well, oh my God, we're in trouble. We're not. Our cash flow is very good. And we're in a good situation. We're in a good position right now. And then the last page is the reserves. We've deposited a little over $16,000 into the reserves, and the reserves are currently sitting at same thing as you saw on the balance sheet. Scroll down a little more there. Yeah, 498,690, which matches up with what you saw on the balance sheet. I think there was one question. Okay. Any other questions on the financial reports? Send it back to you, Madam President.
So we're done here, Joe?
Yes.
Thanks, Joe. I want to say I talked to our insurance broker yesterday, and she was so impressed with all the fire mitigation. She's already talking to the underwriters to say, hey, no, you guys don't understand what this property has done. So, so that number's high, but you know, might pay off in multiple ways.
Money well spent.
Yeah, definitely take care of our property.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, I wanted to talk about our new HOA software, Buildium. It went live yesterday. I encourage everybody to get on, check your email. There's an invitation for you to click on and set up your account. This is going to bring some very much needed automation to Tamarron's business office, as well as to the owner experience. If you also get the mobile app, you'll be able to pay your invoices from your phone. You'll be able to submit a maintenance request from your phone, take a picture of the problem, attach it. Just some great automation, as well as some automated digital building of history, which right now is kind of broken up. So that's exciting. I want to give big thanks to Carlos Cruz and Elisa, who have been working the last 6 weeks very hard to transition all owner information, property information, and accounting into the new software. They've done a great job, and they are definitely resident experts. You will be using the software exclusively now for all of your payments and all of your invoicing. We have assessments coming out tomorrow. Those are normally sent June 1st. The assessments due July 31st. Elisa is no longer emailing those to people, nor is she any longer printing them and mailing to those who want a paper copy. You will only be able to access this through Buildium, and you will have to pay your invoices through Buildium. So that's going to be a change for some people. Some people are thrilled about the change. I know I am. Some people might find it kind of challenging. If you're having problems setting up your account, contact Carlos Cruz. I also wanted to let you know, I've asked Buildium to put together a video showing specific processes for our property, how to set up your account, how to set up the payment method in the system, how to access your invoice, how to submit a maintenance request. And they plan to give that to us next week, and we'll send it out and make it available to all of you. But in the meantime, don't hesitate to call, because we're here to help you. We understand transition can be hard. Let's try to stay positive and just communicate, and we will get this to be a very smooth process for everybody. But give it a try. Let us know what you think. I wanted to ask,
Because there's,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that we'd love to hear input, because there's gonna be some kinks. We could have your name spelled wrong. Please, check your information.
Yeah, I know, like for me, my husband and I are listed as different owners, so we both got an invitation to join. And I know in Cheryl's case, she and her husband are listed as one owner. They only got one invitation. My husband and I both tend to HOA business, so it's good that we can both access it. We can make those adjustments for your particular circumstances and preferences. So we just have to know. But anybody who's challenged by technology, set up an appointment with Carlos, and he will sit with you and help get your payment method in the system for you, and show you what to do. Plus, we'll have this video coming from Buildium. And I wanted to now ask Carlos, who I think is on, if I missed anything or if he has anything to add.
No, Stacy did a really good job summing it up. I just want to reiterate, if any owners have any questions or anything they want to pass along, feel free to get in contact with me. I'm happy to get on a Zoom call, or you can stop by the business office. I can always help owners set anything up. So
Thanks,
I hope
Carlos.
it happens.
Carlos has done such a tremendous job, really becoming an expert, digging in and working with Buildium and just becoming the resident expert. So thank you very much, Carlos. And you will, I see a question from Mary Keys. Will we be able to print out our assessment invoice off of Buildium? If you're logging on your computer, you should be able to print out anything, and whether you can download it in PDF form to then print, I don't know. Print a screenshot. Haven't had that question, but Carlos, can you make a note of that and find out?
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay.
And can I add that there are a lot of owners who use me as the ACH system. I won't be doing that anymore. I'll send out a note to tell folks, hey, do it through Buildium. It's cheaper, it's easier, you have control of your own payments. So I think it'll be good. And if you need help, I can help with that.
What about people who do the ACH payment through their own bank?
Perfect. You can still do that. You can still walk up and write me a check. Either way, I just won't be doing the physical ACH for you anymore. And that's about 30, 40 people, maybe
So
more.
just to be clear for everyone, so they don't miss a payment, if you have ACH now through you, you need to go to Buildium and make that.
Yes, and you can do it again monthly, quarterly.
Yeah, we really encourage people to, I set up my ACH in Buildium, because what happens is now I'll get my invoice and I'll choose pay invoice. I'll select my ACH. It's 2 touches and then it's done. And that saves a lot of staff time too, from having to open checks that are mailed to them and drive down to the bank. So we're really trying to automate this process as much as possible. You can still send a check if that is your preference. You can, we still take checks, but it's actually faster for you to do it in the software, and then it gets automatically posted to your account. So that's what we encourage. But we will only be taking maintenance requests through the app. So or I'm sorry, Bobby, you can email Jessica at BHP or use the BHP number. But again, if you do a maintenance request through the app, you can attach a picture, done. And everything should be, just think of moving toward Buildium for all HOA business. It's much needed automation for us.
So,
Okay.
not to belabor, Lisa, but there may be
Speak
owners
up, speak up.
there may be owners that aren't listening. And it's important that they really, maybe Gary, it requires an extra email because a lot of your invoices may come out this next period and people don't.
Exactly.
Set ACH set up and people just say, well, I thought ACH took care of it and Tamaron's not getting the revenue.
We decided we'd send out one specifically to HOA, ACH payments because of all the information we've been getting. I thought if we could focus just on payments, and for those of who have just relied on me doing it every quarter, can't rely on that anymore. You can also pay by credit card, and I think the credit card fee is a little smaller than what we have currently,
Huh, interesting.
just a little.
There's a question here.
Yeah, I have two questions.
I'm
One-
sorry, I can't see who's talking. Can you please identify yourself just so I know who you
Gary.
are?
Gary Gustafson.
Oh, hi, Gary.
704. Two questions. One, are we going to run two websites now? Are we going to have Buildium and the regular Tamaron website? And then the second question too is how are we going to integrate our financial statements into the new website? I looked last night. It looks like all we did was transfer what we had on one website over to the other. Are we going to actually do our financials using Buildium software? Or are we going to do it separately?
I'll let Elisa and Stacy answer that.
Okay.
Okay, Buildium does offer a website. We're doing that for stage 2. Carlos has that on his list to look at after the mad dash to get to implementation, as well as getting owners set up over the next few weeks. So then we will be looking at the website feature offered by Buildium, and our goal is to cut down on a lot of our technology subscription costs, that we have multiple things going to keep us running in the old format. That Buildium will automate a lot of it. So that is to come, Gary. We will be looking at the website. For now, our calendar will be set up on Buildium. We haven't put events in there yet, but you'll be able to go there, look for when the next board meeting is, open the agenda. And all of our contacts are there and our files are there as well. So a lot of what people use the website for is already in the resident center of Buildium, and we just keep moving that forward. And as for our financials, Elisa has moved everything into Buildium with the current balances, and we will be doing all of our accounting out of Buildium, if that answers your question.
Is that going to be available for us to look at any point in time? Or
Yeah, so I've been doing dual accounting for May. I've been doing QuickBooks and Buildium. So it will take a little bit of making sure things are right. Reports are not going to look the same right now. I'm working with the software people on that, but
you are transitioning over to having
yeah, then
on
everything
Buildium?
right now matches, and as soon as I reconcile, we'll know that everything's in both places, and then I can just switch to one platform.
So is it going to be input like on a daily basis or weekly basis where everything updates? We can go in and see exactly where we are.
I
Well,
don't know.
I don't think
Owners-
owners have access to the financial
don't-
records.
Well, I'm not questioning, I'm not addressing that. Does the owner portal have that much data? Does it have the financial statements, running financial statements, so that owners can look at them any given day?
No, I don't think they have that access. I know that we have it on the top portal, which is the staff and board level. But even there, we only have certain access to certain things granted. I did not see in the resident center a financial statement function. Now, I think what we normally try to do, and we can perhaps automate that, is once once Joe and Elisa have finalized a financial statement, whether it's, a month end or a quarter end, we could post that as a report to the owner portal in the files. But I don't know if there's a path for the residence center to get to financial statements. Maybe Carlos, if you're still on, and put that as a question. If a resident is interested in financial statement, what's the best course of providing that?
Okay,
Gary's-
I will look into
Gary
that.
has always been my number one guy to ask for current financial statements. So
Yeah. Well, and so I know, I think right now Joe likes to review the financials with Elisa to just, tidy everything up if there's a question. And once they're approved, then they should be made public. Is that correct, Joe?
I think that's the right way to go. Yeah.
Okay. So then Gary, we'll find out how we can get that posted to the resident center of Buildium. And Joe, is that something that would be expected monthly or quarterly?
We do it monthly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see if we can automate that so it would be more like a click of a button and a release of the report, and we could put it on a schedule, because I know we've missed a few months, and Gary, I know you want that, so more to
Yeah.
come.
Stacy, I think it's fair to state that, I mean, we did an exhaustive review of the functionality. And now that we've launched it, we're going to continue to learn things that perhaps we missed or we didn't realize were there. So I would just ask the owners be patient as we work through this, and to the extent we can provide functionality, we're going to do it, because the whole idea here is to minimize staff time and make this as automated as it can be, and simplify the processes, not only from an administrative perspective and a board perspective, but also for the owners.
That's right. Thank you, Scott. And thank you for your time in the exhaustive review of Buildium that we all went through the first quarter. Okay, anything else on Buildium?
Another question.
Gary has another question.
Yeah, related to financials. Every time I review them, when a new one comes out, I always have a lot of questions, about the numbers and how we achieve those numbers. And, if we're double what we should have in terms of expenses versus budget, those are things that I'd like to be able to ask somebody, what's up, just so we know. Is there anything that we can do to have a little better transparency on that and have a little more communication?
You could ask me anything you want, Gary. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Okay.
What other kind of transparency are you looking for?
Well, we're just not getting any kind of updates that I can see. It looks to me like it's pretty erratic in terms of when we're getting updates in terms of our financial statements.
They come out once a month and they're posted on the website.
They're not very timely if that's supposed to be once a month.
Well, I'll admit that we've had some issues with getting them posted in a timely manner.
Yeah.
But I think in the last couple of months, you would have to say that, yes, they've been timely.
Well, to me, it's, the financials are kind of a score sheet, for how well we're doing as an HOA.
Yeah.
If we want to look on there and see that we're not budgeting properly, there's always a reason for that. And I think that if we had a little better insight into that, that would be helpful. I like to see where we are, and, right now we're $200,000 through the first quarter, over budget.
171.
Okay, well, it's close to 200 in my view. It's 171 over budget. There's got to be some good reasons for that.
I think I pointed out a lot of those.
Well, yeah, I have a lot more questions. I'm not going to do it right now. I can do it privately with you.
Send me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to work through that.
I've used Buildium before. In fact, I was the one that brought it to the board's attention. It has a lot of functionality. There's a lot of things we can do, and I'm just curious again how much we're going to rely on Buildium, other than just the payment system, which is obvious. It has a lot of things that can be helpful for us.
Gary, as Scott said, we're just getting started, and one reason we went with Buildium was because of the huge potential for everything it could do for us. We're learning, we're working on that, and as I said, we're We have now, and Carlos has written this down, found out, to find out a path to automate the pushing through of the financials so that it is timely when they get posted and made available. And you have Joe. I can help you review or address questions. Joe can. So we've just started with Buildium. We know it can do so much for us, but we haven't got it all mastered as of today. We're working.
And also, so Gary, if you have experience with it, you think we're missing something, let us know, because it's entirely possible that that wasn't part of a demo or we just weren't aware of it.
Okay.
And we're not doing it just for the financials. As I said, we're putting all violation tracking in there. We're putting all, we're doing maintenance requests in there. We're doing announcements, the announcement feature, if there is something urgent, we can send out an announcement. You'll get a push notification on your phone. You'll get a text. So multiple ways of communication where we plan to use it for the maximum benefit. It's just that on day one, we're still learning.
So the idea then is to move ultimately to Buildium as our only format, our only web page. I mean, we're not going to be duplicating everything between the two.
That's our goal. Yeah, I think just to keep one foot in the old pool and 1 foot in the new pool creates nothing but chaos for everybody.
Right, weren't we talking about, and maybe I'm wrong, I wasn't part of this team, the process that put this in, got this to where we are now, but isn't the idea to move a lot of the more sensitive stuff that's on the public website over into Buildium, like the financial reports, the documents and things like that, get those off the public website and leave the public website in place only as a marketing and general information, public information tool?
Well, what you're talking about with Buildium, with the files and the calendar and those things, that's already there. But Buildium, Joe, also offers a website housing, so for free. So that's what Carlos said is stage 2. We just haven't had time to see how that works. But it sounds like, Gary, you may have used it in the past for your website hosting too.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
I think it's fair to say we'll always have a website. It's just a function of how do we host it.
yeah, and so we're going to look into this Buildium's offering because it's free. No, sorry, it's not free. It's covered by our fee. And I'd like to say that we budgeted $7,000 for this and we came in way under budget. So that's great. We talked to a couple other ones, one who was twice as expensive for limited features and then had add-on costs for everything else. So we worked hard to get a good arrangement for our property. And Gary, I'm happy to meet with you to talk more about how you've seen Buildium used and make suggestions to us. I welcome those. Like Scott said, we would love to know if we're missing something, because any chance to automate is a good one.
Yeah, keep in mind, the other thing that we're trying to solve for here is right now, the only person that knows how to operate our existing website is Gary Prisby. And, we have to have a succession process here as well. So, that is part of the broader scope here, is at some point, we may not have somebody that knows how to, knows how to operate the, I can't remember the name of the software off the top of my head, but that the existing website is built in. So.
Yep.
Well, one of the reasons we asked about integrating the financials in and whether or not we're going to use them on a regular basis, off of Buildium, is that looking, year to year over our financials, every year, everything changes to where you can't really go back and look at what you did last year in the same category. The categories keep shifting, the dollars keep shifting. The only way you can even look at it and try to get a year to date compared to the previous year is basically to look at the totals, because everything within that category keeps shifting around. So if we're spending 3 times as much in a particular category, you can't look into the financials and dig that out. They're obscure.
Yeah, I don't know if that's entirely true. That, I mean, I've been dealing with this budget for a long time and 90% of it has been consistent.
Yeah.
You know, we're
And-
always gonna make changes, Gary. I mean, that's just the nature of, managing the property.
And Gary, I'm gonna call you out here because a lot of the changes that have happened over the last 3 or 4 years were at your request.
Okay.
Let's move along.
Okay. Next up, rules and regs. Our committee is meeting next week. We've been working toward making sure everybody has the right access in Buildium to receive violations reported and be able to be set up to send violation notices through the software. So we're getting that going, and in the meantime, we're still operating under the old method of emails and an Excel tracker and everything else. It's a little disjointed. We look forward to be up and running in Buildium, but I have Trisha today who's going to give us an update on what we've been working on. Trisha, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, good morning.
Come around this side so that Stacy can
Oh
see.
yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
There you go. Anywhere right there.
So first off, I want to say Rules and Regs Committee is Stacy, myself, Carla Hughes, and Lisa Dunn. And we've been working really hard the last year. I do want everybody to know we do not go on property searching for violations. However, if we get a complaint from an owner regarding a violation, we have to act upon it. So that being said, last July, the Taco Board voted to revamp our policy in order to incorporate recent state laws and revisions. These included specific documentation, tracking, as well as guidelines on communication of violations and certified mail if the violation may lead to a fine. The committee has worked very hard to learn and incorporate the new structure. And now we are working to build a new structure into Buildium. We began tracking all of our violations June 8th of last year. All owners were notified of violations either by email, phone call, and/or certified letter. All violations were followed up by the Rules and Regulations Committee. And at this time, all violations have been resolved without incident. We do have a couple of outstanding violations right now, but there's still a time period that they're allowed to correct that. Once a violation has occurred, owners will be notified again via email and a phone call, and again, a certified letter if appropriate. Depending on the rule and regulation violation committed, the committee will follow up to be sure the violation has been resolved within the time frame requested by the committee. We have had several health and safety violations, which include pets being off leash. That is our very biggest. Unkept condos and also parking violations are also a common violation. Stacy reached out to our insurance company regarding our most frequent violations, which is pets being off leash. They replied, your insurance carriers will always expect that you follow local, state, and federal laws. We know that animals off leash can present a risk to a cyclist. And as most of you know, a cyclist was killed recently in Durango because a pet was off leash. They're also a danger to children and the public at large. You may think your dog is the sweetest dog ever. And if it's off leash and goes to a dog that's on leash, it's going to be an issue. So even if they're sweet, they have to be on leash. And they said within this in mind, limiting the potential for these interactions and subsequent potential for injury is going to be viewed as favorable in underwriting. And it should be noted that La Plata County has a leash law. And generally, all dogs must be on leash, and the leash may not be more than 6 feet long. Now, owners, remember, your dog may have a leash on, but you have to hold the leash. I've actually seen someone walking with a leash on a dog behind them, and the owner's not holding it. Also, now so therefore, this does not include remote control leashes. And if you have an unleashed, usually long leash, then you need to be sure it's no more than 6 feet long. We've had condos that were not maintained and therefore presented a serious health and safety violation. Be sure renters are not allowed pets unless where the law applies. And this is just a general rule. It's not a taco rule, but people walking on the golf course, remember you can't walk on the golf course. And again, this is a Glacier rule, but I assure you, Glacier will find you and take you off the course. Owners, if you have not read the rules and regulations noted on the Tamarron website, please do so. A lot of us haven't read the rules and regs in years. And all owners need to be informed of what is and is not allowed. If you rent your unit, please be sure the renters know of all the rules and regulations and that your management company also knows. The committee's really excited about the new software. We've spent a lot of time doing the violation reviews and writing them and stuff like this, but this will be so much easier in building. We do plan on reviewing the current rules and regulations as they have not been reviewed since February of 21. So a special thanks to Stacy, our chair, Lisa and Carla for all their help. If you have any questions, contact rules and regulations. You don't have to contact Gary. Contact one of us. Our emails are on the website. And again, it'll be easier with building.
Thank you, Tricia. That's a great report. And I think that, as we head toward closing the front desk, we've closed the hospitality portion of it. We're going to have to review all of our documents and update them. Some of them more soon than others. But, if you have questions for us about rules and regs, anything that you wonder about, we're here and we're all entered as contacts in Buildium. So we love the exchange. We love the communication. Okay. Are we ready for the next? Yes. Okay. We'll do the property report, and Bobby, I'll hand it to you.
All right. Thanks, Stacy. Property report. It's been a busy spring on property. It's a busy winter. Grounds, we started grounds basically a month earlier this year just because of the lack of snow. We pretty much started beginning of April. Started getting the water sprinkler systems repaired and getting everything fired up. We've done a lot of landscaping work down in Gamble Oak and Pinecone. We've had a lot of chips left over from our fire mitigation projects. We spread those chips underneath some Gamble Oaks where dirt is just there. Grass doesn't grow under them. With the suggestion from Wildfire Adaptive was to do that. The chips stay wet from the sprinkler system. It keeps the trees nurtured and it's really healthy for them. So we opted to do that as one of the big projects this spring. Let's see, we started doing the staining in Gamble Oak. The guys worked on staining and painting the upper stucco areas of condos and staining. They're in Gamble Oak wrapped up. They're working in Pinecone. They'll be heading to Lodge and High Point in the next month. Window washing was done the beginning of April this year. They've got that done. We did get 3 days of rain straight after we got the windows washed. So if you've got some issues with your windows being dirty, let me know. We could probably get them back out there. Also, if you've noticed, I don't know how many owners have been up on the north deck area, the lodge. There's that old tee box up there. Those sprinklers didn't work for years. We worked with Glacier and our guys, and we were able to find a way to tie those sprinklers into our system. So now we have sprinklers up there on that old tee box. Glacier has offered to work with me to hopefully get it looking close to tee box care by the end of this year. I really like that area to be what it used to look like if we can do it. It's gonna take some work, but we've come a long ways. As Joe mentioned, we did run cameras down all lines on property. It took about 2 weeks, but High Point lines are all PVC. There was some question as to whether it was, but all of them leaving the buildings turned to PVC, which is good.
Still have cast iron under.
We still have cast iron under the buildings, but it does have PVC under the ground to the main, so that's good news for High Point. Pine Cone and Gamble Oak are cast. We didn't see any real major concerns. It is 50-year-old cast. No one has a crystal ball, but at the moment, we're just gonna go and treat every issue that arises as it is. And we'll keep an eye on that. Stacy talked about your guys' software, Buildium. BHP is looking at software as well, hopefully to be live end of this year for sure, beginning of 26. In the work that I've done with Glacier, we've really looked at a software that they've been using. It's called Asset Essentials. So far, that's my favorite one. It does a lot of tracking. It does cost effectiveness. The guys can clock in and clock out of it, for owners, and it can switch easily from Taco to owners work that we do. Lastly, before we move on, and I'll talk about fire mitigation later, but in mid-September, there'll be a PRV project going on. It'll kick off mid-September with Glacier, Elbert Creek, and us. At the intersection on the north end of the lodge, when you turn down to go to Glacier, there's an underground manhole there. There's a pressure relief valve there that they are going to move to just off the cart path in front of Pinecone. What that's going to do is going to allow them to control the water line pressure in Gamble Oak and Rockwood. Gamble Oak and especially Rockwood, according to Elbert Creek, has really high water pressure. So they need to figure out a way to reduce that. So they're going to be installing a 10 foot by 18 foot caisson in the ground. And that PRV will be moved from there to down there. It's going to be a huge project. There's going to be a big hole there. That concrete will be there after it's done. It'll be accessible for them to get in and out of there and maintain that PRV valve. They'll landscape around it. They'll put some boulders around it and so on. But there will be, during that project, they pushed it from June to September, which I'm glad they did. There'll be some, Pinecone will be briefly without water in the morning and briefly without water in the afternoon for 30 to 40 minutes while they set up their bypasses to work on that line live. So I'll keep you guys posted as we get closer to that time, but that's one big thing that I'm looking forward to having done. That's about it right now.
Where exactly is that caisson gonna be?
It's basically gonna be in between Tricia Layfield's unit and 688 in there somewhere, right off that cart path. Glacier's property.
Behind the condos.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bobby, go ahead, Mark, sorry.
Plumbing, Bobby, one other thing is under Pinecone and under Gamble, mostly it's all PVC. Not
Under
directly
the condos, yes.
One thing is almost all of the individual laterals have clean outs. There's a few that
Yes.
don't,
Few that don't.
and it may be worthwhile because it's PVC and inexpensive in the future to make sure all the laterals have clean outs. So if there is an emergency,
Yep.
you know, you don't have a morass.
We did install 2 or 3, I think, at Umber Cameron, just so it made it easier, but yeah, we can definitely install some more. Sure. Anybody else have any-
I was just gonna say when Pinecone is having those days of 30 minutes no water in the morning and in the evening, that'd be a very good use for the Buildium announcement feature to text people the schedules that day of water on, water off. So they'll be more aware and kept up to date.
That'd be
As
good.
as we implement, I'm just seeing new opportunities for that level of communication rather than just email.
One last thing, the fire upgrade project kicked off in April in High Point. That's the first phase of the project with Durango Electric. I mean, anybody up there is, I'm sure, have seen them working up there. What they're doing is installing 2 fire panels in High Point this year, and all the underground wiring from building to building. I'm sure all you guys up there have seen the trenches they dug. We had to repair sprinkler lines and so on. That system was function tested Thursday. The fire alarms were going off, so they coincided with the panels, so we knew which building was setting off in which area. Everything worked, everything passed. That area will probably go live the end of July. So that'll be the first phase. Next year, they'll move to Pinecone and Gamble Oak.
Bobby, does that mean when that goes live, does that mean that when our sprinklers trigger an alarm that there is a fire, it will report to the Durango Fire Department rather than to the front desk in High Point?
Correct.
Okay.
Or High Point this year.
For High Point, yeah, this year.
Yep.
That's exciting. I wasn't sure if it all started at the same time once they were all done, or if it's as we go. So it's as we go that they go live.
Good clarification on looking at, yeah.
That's great. I'll also add, USI, our insurance company, sent out a risk assessment team with our broker and spent the day on the ground with Bobby, seeing all of our fire mitigation and different aspects of our property. And they were very, very impressed. They have provided us a report. It looks great. They wanted to meet with Bobby and me next week to go through it. Any recommendations, all the positives that they saw. And once we have that meeting and go through it, we'll have that made available to owners. It just is an indication of everything that we're doing for the property.
Can I say that that it would be nice if that very much impressed relates to favorable insurance rates this fall?
Oh, it goes without saying. We want more than just a pat on the head and told good job, but we'll see.
Right. Show me the money.
Yeah. Okay. So Mark, I'm going to hand it to you now with roofs.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting to where I can see you, Mark.
Well, I have to see too.
Yeah.
Right over here. This is good. Where Tricia was.
Okay.
Okay, so the roof project is finished. The people that are clapping are the hardest, and the people that had to put up with it because they're living in their condo when all the disruptive work was happening, but it's finished. Gary, could you move on? So at a very high level, this is where we landed. First, on the general progress, we're well ahead of schedule. This roofing project was scheduled to go through August this year, but it's done. It would have been this summer at Gamble had we not accelerated the work. Ross worked all winter long getting this done, and the good news is Gamble Oak owners, people with guests will not have to put up with roofing this year. People in Pinecone, it's disruptive. Last summer was disruptive, I'll just say. And we're really happy the way that everybody dealt with it, but it's done. On budget, first there's materials. We finished on budget. I just should mention, I had Higher Ground do a calculation for me this week. Had we treated this as a three-part project rather than a one-part project all up front, cost of materials would have been about $150,000 more if we had treated this unit complex by complex by complex over a period of 2 years. Just the cost increases with individual orders. So by treating this as a whole project, buying everything up front, paying for cost fixed up front, but the materials alone, we saved $150,000, yet we're able to spread it out to the owners as if it was a project that was piece by piece by piece. So that's a good news. Labor, as of about, I said June 1st, but Joe, you may be able to add to that. When the final payment is made for the 10% holdback, we will be on budget.
End of July.
End of July.
Yeah.
We will be on budget. So that fixed price didn't include anything that would have been if we had 3 separate contracts there. Been less.
Hey, Mark, hang on a second, okay? Good.
A non-muting
Yeah.
problem.
There.
Did I get it?
I think you got it.
I think you did.
Finally, on contingency, well, we're a little bit over on contingency. I'll get to that in the next slide. We're $40,000 over on our contingency. We went with a 5% contingency for the whole project. That turned out to be a bit skinny. At the end though, including the contingency, this entire project went over budget about 1.5%, which for people that have done these kind of projects before, I'll take 1.5%. Gary, can next slide.
I waited until you were doing this before I added this as well, so
Go back.
we had to go back. Yeah, so 40,708 is the net dollar amount that we're over budget.
Correct. Okay.
And you can add to that, one single owner who has not paid the assessment to the tune of about $7,500. And the way that's looking is that's gonna be a long-term thing. We may have to just write that off and that doesn't mean we won't continue to pursue the owner to get it.
Yeah, it'd be maybe a lien and at the end of the day,
So the net over cost on it as of today is about 48,000.
we'll come back in 10 years and check on the.
Right.
Next slide, please. So here's how the contingency broke out while we spent the money. First, there was High Point and Pinecone, I call it decking. This is underneath the old roofing, it was just rock. And that was the highest cost item. The second problem was, I'm just gonna politely say, vent replacement. There's other people that call those vents other things. But they're the square vents that we have at Pinecone and Gamble. We learned and at Gamble, Pinecone last summer, the majority of the leaks were caused by these vents were rusted out. We didn't know it. We replaced the ones that were bad at Pinecone as we went. At Gamble, to be proactive, we replaced every one of the square vents across the entire property because we knew it was a problem. That was $46,000. At Pinecone and Gamble, we did roof extensions on over all of the decks. And that was because the roof was built before, so the rain would fall onto the deck and rot the decking. We extended the deck, the roofs out, so the water would fall over the edge of the decking and wouldn't cause rot of the decking surface per se. And then finally at Pinecone, we did snow bars across the areas that slope down onto parking areas. That's for pedestrian safety. These new roofs slide snow and they slide snow fast. We all know what happened 2 years ago at Purgatory with a snow slide with a pedestrian leaving. So we've got snow bars across all of the sloping areas into the parking areas at Pinecone. And that's what tallied it up. Like I said, 1.5% of that 5% was a little skinny, but not bad in my opinion. Gary, next slide. So what do we have to think about next? First, best practices would be a final inspection by an independent. Bobby and I have visited on this. He's recommending an engineer who has quoted us $750 to do a final inspection of the roofs across all three areas. I don't know, Stacy, whether you'd want to have a formal discussion or vote on that, but that is where the number would land. The second item that I'll just leave for discussion now, and then I'll sit down, is with these roofs, they slide snow rapidly. We learned this last winter, we had about a half a dozen stovepipes that were toppled over. Proactively, we need to think about how to deal with that in the future. The most conservative approach would be snow bars. They cost a lot, there'd be a lot of snow bars. I'm a little concerned about snow bars in that not only do they hold snow, but they would hold pine needles and debris and maybe end up being an additional maintenance problem. And then there's other items that we can consider that may be a little bit more creative. If you go up and down Valley, you'll see these little pyramid shaped diverters above the pipes. The situation here with the roof we had installed is we have what called a floating roof. So you do not want to put bolts through the roof and fasten the panels to the underlayment, because what that would happen is with differential expansion and contraction, then you'd end up with buckling in the sheet metal. So it has to be clamped. Bobby, you gave me the one clamping device there. That looks a little bit flimsy to me, but what I would recommend is that we ask Higher Ground with their fab shop to maybe look at a hybrid where it's clamped down with the diverter. And maybe test that for.
Onto the standing seams.
It
Like
has to
the
be
snow,
locked to the standing.
like the
seams.
snow bars.
It cannot be drilled through the steel.
No.
It has to be locked.
Right.
And maybe a hybrid type situation, and ask Ross to be creative and come up with something like that. We could test it for a season rather than go gangbusters and do snow bars across the property. So that's it. That's the route. Again, it's done.
Question. Question, Mark, on the snow bars, on the gable roofs, we had to add snow bars. And I notice in Pine Cone, those snow bars are down the main roof to help it not collect on the gable valleys. And then there's snow bars on the adjacent to the valleys, there's snow bars there as well. Gamble Oak, they didn't do that. And Gamble Oak, they only put the 4 snow bars down to the peak of the gable and no more.
I have to ask Ross.
Yeah,
You know,
I wondered about that.
we'll ask and find out, but snow bars will definitely work above the smokes, the stovepipes.
Well, these snow bars in the gables were to prevent shearing of the standing seams because you had the valleys coming down.
And again, those were paid for by the individual owners. that
Exactly,
have
but
gable roofs.
I'm just wondering why the difference.
I don't know, I'll ask.
It seems in Gamble Oak, it wasn't a less aggressive approach.
It's still pretty thorough because the snow, the problem is you can't just put a single snow bar above the smokestack because the snow would come down
Well, in
and
Pine Cone,
slide down and just
you
wipe
have
it out.
where the-
Snow
where the
bars would
peak
have to
comes
be
up,
above the
and then you have the
stovepipe
valley on either side. of
in
the peak.
3 layers
They
all the
put
way up.
Snow
And I
bars
think it seems a
on
little bit
the
overkill.
sides of the peak.
Diverters, if you drive up
Gamble,
and down the
yeah.
valley, I didn't know what a diverter was until all the chimneys went down last winter. But if you go up and down valley, you'll see these little pyramids
This is,
above the
and they
chimneys
did that.
on the standing seam roofs, or even on the slope cantilevers.
This is even the one that's not on the park. Yeah.
Mark, my name's Greg Stone, Gamble Oak 703. Great job on the project, by the way. So I have a question. I'm just curious. When the contractor provides a project schedule, he's looking at manpower over duration of time. And the project finished under, shorter schedule by what, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
About 4 months.
So let's just suppose that there was 100,000 man hours to do the work. And there are time cards that the laborers gave to their foreman would maybe dictate that they had 80,000 hours instead of 100,000 hours. So I'm just curious, one of the questions I would ask the contractor is, this is great, we're 3 months under schedule, but can you show me the time cards to confirm that you actually spent 100 hours of your time? And the reason I'm saying this, Joe, is that you should be able to get a credit for the man hours for the general conditions that were not spent. You may be able to get a credit that's not being presented.
So two answers to that.
Fixed price contract.
First, it was fixed price contract. And is the nature of the contract, and that's available to look at. Secondly, this contractor went from, and I'm gonna just guess on myself, all through the work that he did November, maybe even into October. Did he have an October payment?
Did he have an October payment?
Let's just say November, December, January, February, March.
I don't think he had an October labor payment.
Let's just say 5 months for discussion purposes. He went completely out of his pocket.
Yeah, he did.
He did it. I don't know why he did it. He didn't have to do it, but he did it. He wanted to get it. Quite frankly, I think he wanted to get this finished so he could get higher margin jobs this coming summer. But it really doesn't matter. We benefited. And I don't know, I wouldn't feel, I feel we got a good deal. But it was a fixed price contract, and that's really the final answer, Joe.
Yeah, we don't have any rights to his books. It's a fixed price contract.
If it was an hourly-
We take the risk of paying what he says we're gonna pay. He takes the risk of his costs going over.
Yeah.
And if they go under and he's more efficient, that's to his benefit.
Yeah, it wasn't an hourly based contract.
Yeah, it's not a time and materials contract in no manner.
And that's why we landed perfect.
Yeah, no, and it's not a time and materials process. It's really how the contract was written. I mean, I'd have to read the contract to see how that, but even in fixed price, depending on the language, general conditions can be, there is some negotiation, general conditions that are not there.
I don't think there's.
But the reason we are ahead of schedule is because Ross worked through the winter months because we didn't have snow. Isn't that correct, Mark? We're ahead of schedule due to not having snow and him being able to work through months we didn't think he'd be able to work.
And he carried the labor cost through that.
Exactly. It's not that he projected that the project was going to take him through August because he was going to be working through winter months. He figured he wouldn't have guys on property during that time. So he was delaying it until the spring so that he could bring guys back onto the roofs to finish.
This worked for him because he was able to keep guys employed. Roofers are in Durango or Colorado are generally not going to be working as much in the winter. But because it was a dry winter, he could keep guys working. And so he would have those guys to start the summer on other jobs.
And
I'd tell you, I'd submit to you the hours are probably the same. They just happened sooner than you expected.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't an hourly contract. It was.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yep.
And as he said, Mark, it's a beautiful winter. My guys want to work. If they don't work for me, I'll lose them and they'll be working for somebody.
They'll be
else.
working for somebody else. Exactly. Yep.
So, again, these are the two discussion topics that are left, but that's the report.
Mark, thank you. And you did all the heavy lifting on this project.
Rick Hughes.
Organizing it and the reporting on it. And just thank you very much for that. Thank you, Bobby's team, for all the coordination on the ground. It was a very successful project. Was there another question?
Rick Hughes has a question.
I just wanted to say that Mark, Stacy, and Scott were the roofing committee headed by Mark, and they did an excellent job on the entire project. Everyone's very good.
And I'll give one final thank you to owners that had to put up with the disruption. We understand it was, but it is what it is. A roofing project is disruptive.
It is.
Norm Jones has a question.
Yeah, Norman K. Jones, High Point 601. Mark, did the committee discuss with the board and or the roofing company about future requests for gables?
Yes.
Good one.
No more.
No mas.
A future gable would require the complete re-roof, it wouldn't be like shingles. It would require complete re-roofing of the unit. It would be a big job.
Cost
Discussed
prohibitive.
this in the meeting in, I believe, September, whatever our meeting was in the fall. And we stated then that we would not be doing any gables going forward due to the new nature of the roofing.
Well, and then even if the size of the job, fast forward 5 years from now, if we were to replace a roof, you'd never get it to match in terms of the color, they'd be fade. Well, I just think they look great driving up 550 and looking at these uniform roofs across the property. We're gonna keep it that way.
And we sent that email out at the beginning of the project too. So, no, we can't do any more gables. I wanted to ask, Mark touched on an engineer report, and we were going to talk about that in the board meeting. My question is, a $750 total fee. I don't understand the scope. And Mark, we were on the phone and I had to jump to a work call, so we didn't get to talk about it. What is it we would be asking an engineer firm to do?
Bobby, you want to address that?
He would basically just do a visual
Yeah.
of the roofs.
Visual and a letter report on, if he sees anything that needs to be dealt with, and Ross would come back and warranty it, but if he sees some panels, I'm just making this up, but if he sees some panels that aren't aligned properly or aren't installed properly, he would note that, put it in the letter report.
If we're gonna do that, suggest it be done prior to when the retention payment is due in 60 days.
Include that.
Yeah.
Is that something that we need? And I will admit my ignorance here. I've never done a large scale construction roof, but I've just done the roof on my house. So I don't mean to sound facetious, because I'm not being facetious, but I rely on my roofer and then my experience. My roof's not leaking, nothing's rattling up there. And my roofer has told me that this was a job well done and it looks good. I don't hire a secondary inspection. I know this is a bigger project, but does the board feel that we need an engineer to come and take a visual look? Would that be worth the $750? Is he going to be climbing up? Is he just going to drive through the parking lots? What are we talking about?
$750. If it's for an engineer, it's probably a half day's review. And maybe
Was the roof warranted through Ross for how many years?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's in the contract, right?
Yeah,
I don't know the number. I don't know the number.
And it's not like Ross is not some small fly by night. I mean, it's warranted by a reputable company in Durango. So any issues we'd have in the future with the warranty would hold in place.
He invested a lot of money in
Yeah.
equipment to do this.
I
do
think
this
best
project.
practice would be to have an independent, just cursory review for $750. It's a $2.8 million project. I think that a $750,000 independent review would be.
$750.
Didn't I say that?
750,000.
Sometimes I don't know what I say, but I think it's pretty reasonable.
It's a small amount of money. I don't think it's necessary, but if it gives everybody a comfort factor, it's probably worth it.
Anybody else have a comment?
Bobby, what do you think? Or Greg, what do you think?
I think Ross is a solid guy. I think he'd stand behind his work.
Yep.
But I understand the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, why don't we
Yeah.
just reach out to Ross and just say, hey, this has been discussed. Give us your input on the necessity of something like this. And I mean, what can they truly check?
More work, sure.
It's $750. It's not that big a deal to give us the to give us the assurances, but I also tend to agree that we just paid a lot of money to a guy that says he'd stand behind his work. I don't know what they can find for $750.
No, but let me go.
Visually.
I'll go to my experience in another world in my business. And we don't have to pay the $750 because after you do construction projects, you have a state inspector come out and verify the construction. It's just, again, it's best practices. It's just covering your butt, so to speak. And Ross, the problem with asking Ross is he would say, well, you know, if it was me, I'd say, I do good work. I don't need an inspection, but what
That's-
we're asking
that's
for is
exactly
we're
what I was
asking
gonna
for an
say.
independent, just cursory look.
Well, that's fair. I still don't know how much they can do. I mean, it's not a big number to me. If it gives everybody comfort, I'm kind of with Joe. It's, you know, it certainly isn't going to blow a budget up by any stretch. And at least it gives us a report back quickly after the project has been completed.
The defects that are gonna show up, that are gonna happen, are gonna be a leak somewhere that nobody's seen yet because they haven't been in the condo, and they show up in July. They
That's
see
all.
water dripping down the wall and they say, oh, I got a leak.
That's all covered.
Yeah, and that's all covered. So. Question, couple questions out here. Michelle?
Thank you, Michelle Dumont, room, our condo. Since our roof was put on, we had a leak in the, bar area, where we look out. And then also we had a tar leak on our deck that ruined two of my good pillows for the chairs. So I'm worried about, because when it rains, I hear drips and I don't know if it's fine or what. And I mentioned about it when it happened to the maintenance department, and nobody told me that they checked it out, or they just said it would go away maybe. So I'm not real clear about that. So that $750 sounds pretty good to me.
Do you have an existing leak right now that you're dealing
Not
with?
right now, but after the roof was put on, we did in both places.
Well, that's what I mean. Now, do you have an existing leak?
When
today.
it rains, I can, like I'm saying, I can hear drips, and I don't know what that means, because we haven't really had really hard rains.
We will
And
this
so I'm
coming week.
concerned.
I'm
I'm concerned about our
well,
roof.
rain, speaking personally, the rainfall is louder on these roofs than it is
Well,
on, than
I
it was on the
understand
shingles.
what rain sounds like, and I understand what a drip sounds like.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm
that should be
concerned
checked
for our
out.
roof.
Yeah, I'll let you guys address this, and I don't know whether you're gonna talk about it, because we talked about it yesterday, is with these roofs, these metal roofs. Michelle talked about tar drips. Do you wanna speak to that?
So we have seen an increase in the tar leaks in Pinecone. That's where we have the issues. I'm positive that's because these roofs are getting hotter. The shingles, the composite shakes that we had up there didn't get as hot. This is gonna get hotter and you will see more of it. So if you have it, call us. We'll come down, put a patch on it, and you get so many patches and we'll put you on the list to get it replaced.
Now,
So-
with they stripped off the old ice and water shields as best they could, right? And we did get a lot of tar leaks from that stuff.
Yeah.
The new stuff that they put on is more heat tolerant, I think.
It's not a
Yeah.
tar-based product.
No.
It's not a tar-based product.
The leaks that are coming.
So any tar leaks that are coming down is the remnants of tar that got into the tongue and groove and
Yeah, let's see.
drips down. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gary Gustafson has another question.
Two questions. One, do we have extra materials from the project for future repairs if we happen to need them?
That's a good question.
And then
I'll
the
look
second
into it.
question would be, my thought on using the engineer and spending $750. I think that's money well spent. Any project of this size that we don't have a professional go look at after the fact and, could save us thousands in the future. The fact that, our contractor, we expect him to be around for a long time, that could change. We're relying on him for warranties in the future. Something happened to him, his company could go away. What do we have then? So it's a $750 insurance policy, the way I look at it. If they found one or two defects, that could be a whole lot less than going in and repairing the inside of a condo unit.
What kind of assurances or guarantees do we have from this inspector that, if he finds something or he doesn't find something that, we don't have any, he doesn't take on any liability, I assume, right? He's just telling us, or he's not telling us.
Well, it's his name, unless we want to hire, then go up in price quite a bit and hire a firm that's, And then you've got a PE seal that would go over the letter, but you're not gonna get a PE to look at it for $750.
It would seem like that if we had Bobby, work with this inspector, actually being up on the roofs and looking at the project, catching it early would sure be a lot better than
It's
catching.
gonna be about a 3 or 4 hour job. It's gonna be a cursory review. It's gonna be, if anything gross jumps out, it's not gonna be a detailed roof.
So he's not gonna be climbing ladders, getting up on the roofs.
doesn't have
It-
time.
It's really. a
You're not gonna
great
get
review.
much out of that.
$750 for an engineer is almost unheard of.
What is he gonna do? I mean, does he have to
He's
go
gonna walk around with Bobby probably and look and see if there's anything.
walk around on the ground and look?
What about a drone?
Well, Mark, hey, quick question. Will they have a drone?
It's
Seriously,
somebody,
I mean, because that's what, I mean, when we look at this on inspecting roofs and all that, I mean, technology is there. I mean, I would expect this guy to have a drone or something to look at it, but I mean, $750 on a $2 million budget is kind of, I mean, I would do it just for peace of mind. That's my take on it.
$750 for an engineer is gonna be a very abbreviated, quick look.
Binoculars, drive it around. Now, if you wanna get a drone and you wanna get on the roof, it's gonna go up.
And we can get a price on that, but I don't know, his billing rate's probably what, $250 an hour, something like that?
so 3 hours.
Now, if we want to talk about a $10,000 review, that's a different conversation.
I think to Mark's point that you'd have to have a PE firm. It would have an executive summary and a number of pages for each with photos and so forth that would go through and give you a report that they would stamp their license to.
Yeah, that's $20,000 plus.
Yeah, I was guessing it was 5 to 10, but yeah.
That's why I was confused about the scope here, because if we're talking about a walking tour of the roofs, I don't think anybody's saying $750 is too much to spend, but is a ground walking tour of the roofs,
That's,
they're going to really tell us.
it's not gonna tell us anything more than most of the rest of us can see, right?
All right, why don't we dig into
Hey, can I make a suggestion? I mean, Bobby's there. I would say that, and this is just my suggestion, why don't we defer this decision to Bobby based on a discussion with the engineer that Mark's suggesting, and he can make a determination whether that $750 is well spent for us.
Yeah, or if he
He's
wants-
our maintenance guy. I mean, you could tell me all day long, and I'm not gonna know, I'm not gonna be able to look at a roof and see that anything's wrong. This guy's gonna have some expertise by looking from a ground, and it can get it, and we can gain something out of it, then, to everybody's point, it's money well spent. But I feel like we're spending a lot of time on something that, Bobby is our maintenance guy. If he feels it's, that we're gonna gain something from it after talking to the guy, then we spend the $750.
Okay, let's table this and look into it further. Bobby, we'll talk to you. Mark, we'd like to talk to you as well.
Yeah, it's
Good.
small. It needs a vote.
I'm sorry?
I said it's so small, it probably doesn't require any kind of vote, it's just a maintenance item.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready?
Stacy, do we want to, on the other, the small, and the bigger issue to deal with is the stovepipes. Do we want to ask Ross to do some design work on a deflection type system that is bolted, that is clamped to the roof?
It's a bigger project, and we're trying to wrap our arms around it. Some of the penetrations in the roof are not active anymore. We want to start by identifying the penetrations that are most at risk, and then that will be the beginning of our discussion. The penetrations most at risk are going to be your furnace vents and your chimneys, right, Bobby? Am I remembering that correctly? And especially the ones on the lower part of the roof that would have the snow velocity gaining when it hits them. Anything on the top part of the roof is not going to really be at risk. So we need to sort of start with our priority penetrations, and then that will kick off the project. So it's a much bigger discussion, and we don't have those facts in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Is that right, Bobby?
Yes.
I guess my only question is, do we want to ask him, and he won't charge us anything, to do some design work, what he could fab in his shop? So when we have the discussions, what we know is what options are available to us. Because right now, if you go online, there is no bolt-on pyramid type.
This would have to be fabbed, you know.
It's something you have to custom make, and if it works, I don't know, I'm just gonna say a number, we're gonna have to have 100 of them made probably and installed before winter hits this coming year.
Yeah, this is, it's a conversation that will definitely involve Russ. And he's aware that it's coming. So we just don't have anything for today.
Okay.
All right, we're going to pass it now to Cheryl for the lock upgrade. Oh, Joe? Yeah.
Yes, I'm speaking for me. I think there might be others needing a.
Joe needs a break.
Pause for the thought.
Yep. Okay. Quick break.
Okay.
That's
Wake up, gotta hurt the cats.
Hey, everybody. Returning from our break. We have all board members present, and Chad had to catch a flight, so he has given me his proxy for any votes.
I shouldn't eat that stuff.
Next up on our agenda is Cheryl to give a brief update on the lock project.
This will be very brief. We are done. I just want to thank. What, Joe?
I said, I was telling everybody we're back in session.
Yes.
To continue, I would like to thank everybody for their patience. We know we had a ton of delays with the Yale locks. Their distribution after they moved their facilities in the United States did cause us some delays, but I'd like to say happily that we are done, and it seems like everybody is doing well with the locks. Anybody that had any issues reached out to Matt at Durango Locks, who I would like to give a huge shout out to Matt. He was wonderful. He handled the delays. He came back to the property so many times. As soon as the locks came in, he installed. He did it in weather that was horrible. And we stayed and got everything done. And now everybody that had wanted the keypad lock has them installed. Going forward, as we all know, if you're going to do this, you need to reach out to Durango Lock. He will put those in, and that is not a board or an HOA project. Any changes to the locks have to be to the locks that we have on property now, but we are complete and happily done and paid.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's a great report. It's a great update. No more failing Onity locks, and people can arrive at their condo without checking into the front desk. It's just going to give us a lot of more modern flexibility with our property. Okay, let's see. For some reason, my camera is showing. Never mind. I'm having technical problems. We have a fire mitigation update from Bobby. Bobby, I don't know if you covered it in your property report or if you. Oh, I know you wanted to go over our ERP and all the work. So I will hand it back to you.
Okay. Fire mitigation, as you guys know, we've done a lot of it on property. We did about $24,000 worth of work in Pinecone, another 26,000 in Gamble, and a bunch of raking and stuff. If you walk back on the west side of Gamble Oak, all those trees are gone. And I'm going to kind of go back a little bit because last year, Corey from Glacier Club came over to the meeting. I don't know if you all remember that or not. We've worked extensively with Glacier Club. We've really tried to make that relationship grow, and it's been great, really. For all of you that don't know, and none of you probably do, in working with them, with Ryan Smith and Corey and Ziggy and the new director of golf and everything about the fire mitigation, we approach the fire mitigation on this property as a whole. So it's Tamaron, Glacier Club, and Rockwood. So Glacier Club has qualified for a $50,000 grant to buy a chipper through Wildfire Adaptive's grant process. That chipper will be used between us, Rockwood, and Glacier Club. Whenever we talk fire mitigation, it's those three entities. Glacier Club, during our meetings, we needed new radios. Tamaron did, the maintenance department. I brought it up to Ryan Smith and Corey. I said, hey, if there's an emergency, we want to be able to talk to your guys. We want your guys to be able to talk to our guys. We bought new radios. Glacier Club let us program our radios to their frequency. So we can talk to Glacier Club guys all day, every day. That's huge for us. When it comes to safety, when it comes to maintenance operations, when it comes to anything. They have 5 channels, 2 of them are repeated. So that was a huge thing. Glacier Club also offered, they have a 250-gallon water truck over at their maintenance shop. Our guys and their guys meet quite often. Greg and I meet with those guys at least every 2 weeks. Mark came down yesterday. We had lunch with Corey and Alex Graff from Wildfire Adaptive. So I'll say Glacier Club has offered, they have a water truck up at their shop. Our guys will meet with their guys later this week. We will know where the key is, as they will. It'll be full of water with a pump. Because in our meetings with the county and Wildfire Adaptive, if something was to happen up here, depending on how busy the county is, they told us it could be 2 hours before we get up there. We don't know what's going to be going on. So the more action that we can take together in those first 2 hours, the better we're going to be. So we have a water truck, thanks to Glacier, with a pump on it. All of our guys will have we have shovels. All their guys have shovels, rakes. Now we have communication services. So if something was to hit here or on Glacier or Rockwood, we all work together now as one entity, and that's going to be great if something was to start, because we could attack it as one force, not 3. So that's I'm just touching on that because that's ongoing for us when it comes to fire mitigation.
Big thank you to BHP for developing that relationship. We've never, as far as I've been here, had this good of a relationship with Glacier.
Yeah,
We've come a long, long way. Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, Stacey, I want to second that. I got to have lunch with those guys yesterday and the progress that they made. I also want to give Mark a shout out from, years ago with the landscape committee and some of the work that he did. And to see where kind of maybe it started, what Bobby and Greg have done, and meeting with Alex and Corey yesterday, just listening and watching, pretty substantial. I mean, it's not just talk, it's getting grants, it's going after it, knowing how to do it. So yeah, big shout out to these guys.
Bobby, have you engaged much with the Forest Service on their?
Yeah.
Especially, south side of Ford?
Yeah, that was part of the discussion yesterday in our meeting. Ryan Cox from the Forest Service did all that fire mitigation work. As you come across the tracks, you can see on the right-hand side of the highway, all them pine trees in that area down there were all.
Would they be able to move that north?
That's their hope. If they can protect the stuff that's on our southern boundary, it's gonna help protect this whole property, this whole area. And our goal with the county, we did I don't know if any of you guys went on property, but we did a fire drill with Plata County, Emergency Management Services and Search and Rescue. They set up in the mine shaft parking lot and they did a red alert to everybody's phones. If you weren't here, you might have got it. They simulated County Road 200 being closed and everyone through Rockwood evacuated through Glacier Club. The day we did that, they set up in the mine shaft parking lot. Everybody, went over there. You go through the process of if it happens, kind of you're familiarized with it. That was great. We talked about doing another one and there's more people on property, but I haven't heard much about that lately because everybody's been so busy. But yeah, and the fire mitigation, like Joe said, we've spent a lot of money on it. Wildfire Adaptive did a site assessment. That's kind of where we built that fire mitigation off of that assessment. And they have some grants that we are also going to apply for. So hopefully we can get some money back on the money we have spent. But yeah, we're doing everything to protect the property and work together with our neighbors. So That's all I
That's
got.
awesome. And we'll have some of those officials at our owners meeting. We're trying to line that up.
Yes,
Yep.
Yeah, Alex from Wildfire Adaptive will be there. Brian Cox from the Forest Service will be there. Corey from Glacier Club will be there. And I think people from the insurance company are coming also. Is that correct, Stacy?
Yes, USI will be at our owners meeting too.
So we'll have a good presentation.
And that will be when, Bobby?
At the owners meeting in September.
You know, one thing about coming from the mining industry, I've worked a lot with the Forest Service and the BLM, and they have a lot of things to do. And sometimes you have to drive it upstairs to get support from your local rep to put pressure on them to make it a priority, and you may want to consider that as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that between Glacier and Tamron, we've got some clout up here.
Yep, that's what we're trying to push.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Mark, for that suggestion. Next, we have some policy updates. I think Greg wanted to talk to us about adding something to the contractor policy that Gary Prisby brought up, and then a note to our ARC guidelines regarding the vote
Weren't we
taken
gonna
by
do
the
my
board.
review first?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Cheryl. Yep, I misread
Like,
that
you
line.
kind of skipped over me.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, guys. That was just a preview of what's to come. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Gary, can you please bring up the first ARC request, please?
Yep.
Thank you. This ARC request was brought forward by Brian Martinez from Unit 337. It is not anything to do with his individual condo or any of the common elements connected to his individual unit, but rather this is a much broader spectrum. This is on the rear deck, the north deck. And the way that this is attached, he's wanting to do a sunshade. And Bobby and I have both reviewed it. Can you go down a little bit, Gary, so that we can actually see? This would be attached not only to the deck area by lag bolts, but would be attached by one of the trees that I'm not sure if we own that tree or whether it's Glacier, but sunshades in the HOA development that I'm currently at now in Scottsdale have been banned due to some issues with them coming free, what they can do to property, what they can do to individuals if they come loose and hit an individual that's on a deck. In theory, it would be great to have some shading on that deck, Brian. I understand where you're coming from, but as the ARC chair, we had you bring it forward so that the whole board could vote on this. But I do not recommend this with the way that this is being put up. Who would be maintaining it in the future? The shade, can you go down a little bit, Gary, showing the price of the shade? Shades that we put up in the commercial industry or in residence are thousands upon thousands of dollars to be something that is longstanding. $100, $200 sunshade, even a $500 sunshade is not going to withstand our wind or our weather. We have very high sun damage up there. We're seeing that on some of the roofing material that's now the tar that's dripping because we get such high heat. Sunshades are notorious for deteriorating. The color fades on them immediately. I do not recommend this. Bobby does not recommend this, but I bring it forward for the board to discuss and then for us to vote on.
So do you have a motion?
I have a motion to bring it forward as not to pass. I believe that there are alternatives, and just once we get past our vote, Brian, I do think that having a removable umbrella that you take back and forth and put in your unit is probably the best option. Something for the board to have to maintain and keep our liability so that we're not having an issue is not the right choice.
So Cheryl, you're saying there's much higher dollar options that we don't have in a budget right now that we could consider sometime in the future?
If we want to go there, but I don't recommend those either. We are not recommending them because they do no matter how high of a dollar of a sunshade you do, it's constant maintenance. So it would be a constant maintenance item.
There's too
Our
many tree
maintenance
branches
team
up there.
would
One
get-
big tree branch and it's gone anyway.
right, when you're doing it around trees.
Right.
And our maintenance team would bear the cost of providing all of the maintenance for it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Which
agree
would,
with Carol.
well,
It's-
the HOA would bear all the maintenance department one, the HOA, the homeowners would, homeowners who are not actually using it.
Okay, so your motion is that we decline to move forward with this.
Yes,
Project.
with this, yes.
Is there a second?
Second, I'll second. I'm looking at one right now next door to my house that is shreds because of the wind,
Ah,
as of last week.
no, that's good to know. All
So-
right, any more discussion?
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Cheryl, I'm curious if it was just, something that they put up June, July, August. Brian, have you done some homework on how, would it last just for a season?
There's no guarantee that it's going to last, and $100, Greg, or sunshades are notorious. We have, like Scott just said, you can't guarantee it. One bad wind and it will shred. Are we gonna have maintenance come and take it up and down every single day and night so that it's not up? What happens if it tears and there's somebody on the deck and we end up with bodily injury? Who's going to be bearing that cost? It's going to be the HOA. This becomes an HOA liability by installing this and connecting it to the roof structure and a tree. Once again, I don't know who owns that tree, but if it's Glacier, we have no rights to adhering to that tree.
Is there an umbrella or something out there now, or is that to me, it seems like.
We had umbrellas. We had tables with umbrellas. I don't know if those still exist.
I just think
those
they-
umbrellas in the cave.
What's that? There's umbrellas.
There's umbrellas in the cave, I think.
Well, maybe just get the umbrellas out.
And why
Use
don't we try
those.
the umbrellas and see how they work out?
But once again, BHP would
know
have to
those-
make sure, I've been up there, the north deck, and it's not necessarily Brian, but it's possibly other residents and renters. They don't clean up after themselves. They don't put the tables back. They don't put the chairs back. They leave debris for maintenance to have to come and clean up around the grill. The grill is left disgusting. And the umbrellas every single night would have to be taken down in case we have weather. If we had weather during the day, Bobby's team would immediately have to go and make sure that if we had wind, those umbrellas would be taken down. If an owner wants to bring them out while they're sitting out there and then take them back to the unit, it seems like that makes much more sense so that it's an owner's responsibility and we're not constantly on call for a blowing umbrella. We all know the damage that an umbrella can cause if it gets loose and it ends up sailing off of our back deck.
Do we have any other
Glass
discussion?
back there.
I mean, that
Any
thing is a
other-
projectile. If it flies down over that cliff and ends up impaling a car or something, I agree. I just don't think it's a risk we take.
You guys know what an easy up is? You fold it out, it's a canopy. They use them at
Oh, that's right.
swap meets and things like that.
Yeah,
Right.
the little tents you use for tailgating.
Right, exactly. My neighbor had one in his backyard. We had a windstorm overnight. I came out and it was in my swimming pool.
Oh, yeah. Happens every weekend at the beach. And they get demolished because they're pieces of crap.
Do we
And
have
thank God
any
nobody was
other?
hurt.
Do we have any other comments? And that includes audience before the board votes? Owners? No? Okay, the motion is to not approve this ARC request. All in favor of not approving?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against not approving?
By the way, you have Chad's proxy as well.
I have Chad's proxy as well, so yes, I'm counting for two.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't see what happened in the room, so I don't know how many were in favor of the motion and against. Greg, where did we land?
It was 7-0 against.
7-0 in favor of the motion. to not
For the
approve.
motion.
For the motion against the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This request is not approved. Cheryl, do you have another one for us?
I do. I actually have one from Mr. Prisby. Can you please bring up yours, Mr. Prisby?
Yeah, hang on.
He's ineligible.
Request.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'll start talking before Gary brings this up. This was, I believe, in 2011, Gary had said, this has already been brought forward to the board and been approved. They are up in other areas. Due to the reduction of trees due to our fire mitigation, which has been excellent, they're having a lot more sun over there. And obviously we know that that sun on that side is very, very intense. And Gary has requested to put up a rollable, which is attached to the bottom of his condo unit, part of his wood structure. It would be completely Gary's maintenance to keep this sunshade in good working order, as well as rolling it up so that it is not down when we have wind, so that it would not fly off into the mountain and hurt anybody. This is, as I said, been already approved. It's just to block out the sun. It would be rolled up. It wouldn't be down all the time. He would only use it for blocking the high intense sun during the day when he needs it, and then would be rolled up. I vote in favor of approving this.
Is that your motion?
My motion is to vote in favor of approving this.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I will say my next door neighbors have one, and I'm really envious because I don't have anything blocking my afternoon sun. And as long as the maintenance of it is up to the owner and it can be rolled up in time of wind very easily, then I'm in favor of this. And I think with the tree removal, we're going to be seeing more requests.
I agree.
I do too.
They're common.
All in favor? Oh, wait,
Aye.
I'm sorry. I need to ask if we have any owner comments. Sorry about that. No? Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and Chad? Okay. Motion carries. Gary, enjoy your shade.
Thank you.
Okay, now, sorry, I jumped ahead earlier. We have an update to the contractor policy from Greg.
Yep, I'm gonna get with Gary, in the lodge for about 4 or 5 years now. There's been a moratorium on washers and dryers. And we need to clean up some language on that and just make it a little more official. So Gary and I will get that worked up, Stacy, and get that to you and the board here ASAP.
Okay, we were also going to update the ARC guidelines to incorporate what the board voted on last meeting, which was an ARC request has to be submitted for window replacements, storm doors, and Ring doorbells, but we approved that those can be fast tracked and not have to wait till the next board meeting. And we need to update our documents. Greg, I don't know if you're ready to read that update or if you want to do that at the same time as the contractor policy.
I'd rather do that at the same time because I want to get back with Cheryl, just as her knowledge is really important on how to do that.
In writing
And
that out.
everybody has been submitting. We've had a couple of additional Ring doorbells, and everybody's sending Bobby and I the pictures so that they're making sure that they're all correct. So thank you, everybody who's been adding those.
That's great. And Greg, we can then have the wording of that worked up over the summer and present them for approval in the September board meeting.
Have it to you before.
Okay.
I make one comment.
But we'll have to vote on them in September, so we will have no vote today. And then Scott Gillen wanted to
Hey, Stacy, input.
Can I just make one comment on washers?
Yes.
When you look at this policy, out of personal experience, the RV size, small washer dryer combos that you would consider how they may affect adjacent units with the amount of noise that they make?
Plus where you put the vents and.
I can tell you they're like earthquakes.
Okay.
That's a good point, Mark. This might turn into a bigger conversation. If you could, Mark, send us the like an example of what that looks like. Just for Home Depot or something to so that we know specifically what we're talking about.
Well, the problem is they get overloaded very easily. Anything much more than a pair of socks, they get overloaded, and then they just bounce around, and they're just terrible.
You're talking about now there's stackable units. You're talking about something even
these
smaller.
little tiny
They're small.
RV
Okay, I don't know what
combination
those are.
washer
Okay.
dryers. I'm not exaggerating when I say a pair of socks. Put a pair of jeans in one.
No thanks.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that. Scott has an update on the amended bylaws.
Yeah, and I'm going out of memory here, so Gary or somebody feel free to correct me if I've got my dates all jacked up, but we made some revisions to the bylaws. I want to say 19 or 21. And those, I think at the time, were primarily to allow for electronic voting and some other cleanup that we were doing. Because of just the basic way in which we do it, those things are amended, and typically they need to get executed. We never really had that done via DocuSign or anything. And since we're doing it in a board meeting and don't have a printer there or anything, we've found that we've had some bylaws that weren't actually executed at the time and need to be executed at this point just to clean up the bylaws we already approved by the board. So I am going to make a motion that we allow the existing board or the existing executive officers to execute those bylaws that were already approved by the board so that we can get them formalized and get them out on the website and make sure that they're signed copies. And then to the extent they need to be recorded, we can take care of that as well. Recorded at the county, I mean. I'm not sure that we have to do that, but my motion is to allow Stacy or one of the executives to sign those older bylaws that we already approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So Scott, just to be clear, there's nothing new.
No, stuff we already approved.
And we enacted the bylaws. We've been following the amended bylaws. It's just that they lacked a signature. They never got executed. So
yeah, the way we discovered this is we had a potential buyer who was getting VA was attempting to get VA mortgages, and they were looking for a signed copy of our bylaws. And when I started digging into it, I found out what we had on the website was unsigned. And I was, I think, the president at the time that we did this, and I knew we had approved them. We're following them because we've been voting electronically for a while. We just never executed them and got signed copies on the website. So that's all we're trying to clean up.
For the record, bylaws don't get recorded at the county.
I didn't think they did because we tried to find copies and couldn't.
ECCRs and articles of incorporation are recorded, that's all.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thanks, Joe. Any further discussion on this one? All right, let's vote. All in favor of Scott's motion to allow us to sign the amended bylaws?
Aye.
Aye.
Chad? Anybody against? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, unfinished business, or I'm sorry, new business. We have Andrew Barkus, a lodge owner, who wants to talk to us about window replacement.
Thank you, Stacy. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
I'm in a vehicle right now, so I'm going to leave video off unless anybody wants to see Southern Arizona.
No, thanks.
All right, perfect. So just a little background. I've been an owner since 2004. I've owned Unit 101 in the lodge since 2005. I have really had no interaction with this board other than a brief period, maybe 12 or 15 years ago, when I was a little behind on my HOA dues, and took me 1 or 2 cycles to work through that. But otherwise, I've had a pretty non-controversial relationship with the Taco board. I have become aware that my bay windows in Unit 101, the 2 side windows that open and close, are starting to fail. I believe these windows are original to the unit, so probably 50 years old. They've certainly not been replaced since I've owned the unit since 2005. They are starting to delaminate at the corners, and I believe most of you were on my original email request for the board to cover replacement. As I review the second amended restatement covenants, Article 9, these appear to be a common area item. Confirmed with my realtor, and then just a very recent email discussion with Gary Prisby. It doesn't seem typical that owners are replacing their windows. They actually don't normally interact directly with the window servicer, and I'm seeking the board's approval to cover the either repair or replacement. For the record, it's actually relatively minor defect currently. I am concerned that if the windows fail completely, it's over top of the restaurant bar patio. So there may be a potential for injury if this is not remedied. And again, I'm seeking the board's, I guess, approval, authorization for Gary to go ahead and take care of the quote which he's obtained from Durango Sunglass. And I could go into, there's obviously a lot more involved in this. You guys are probably all aware of. I can go into those details, but at this point, I'm just requesting board action on my request to take care of the window repair and or replacement.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Joe.
I move that Taco replace the standard lodge unit 3 window set in unit 101 as requested by the owner of that unit. The window set consists of 1 fixed picture window and 2 casement windows. I further move that the owner of unit 101 be special assessed the cost of said replacement, and payment will be due 30 days from the date of the special assessment invoice. No work will commence on this replacement before the owner pays the special assessment in full. This motion is in accordance with Taco DCCR's Articles 9.1, 9.5, and 11.5.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, let's have our discussion.
Can I have let me make sure I understand the history of this. So when the lodge was remodeled. Exterior. Owners were given the opportunity to opt in at their cost and pay for the windows, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Since then, there have been even some windows that have been replaced that owners have paid for individually, correct?
Ryan Martinez just got done paying for his window replacement. That was approved by ARC.
So here we have a situation where owners replace their own windows. Now, asking Taco to replace the windows. Folks, money comes from one place. It's the owner's money at a whole. So what we would be asking is all of the owners to pay for this individual window, where in the past, all the owners have paid for their own window, correct?
That's correct statement.
Thank you.
I will, so sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I'm following the plain language in the covenants, which I've cited. You know, the history, you know, may be contrary to the covenants, but it doesn't negate their binding impact on the Taco currently. You know, I appreciate your consideration. I guess there's a second issue, which I will bring up now in light of the motion on the floor, which is a pending records request, which has not currently been fulfilled. But I guess, would you prefer to deal with these individually, Stacy, or all together?
I think we need to finish discussion. I think we need to finish board discussion first, do we not?
Okay, sure. So I've made my arguments via email already. I don't want to waste anybody's time any further. So that's all I have on this particular matter.
I mean, the only comment I have, and I think, Andrew, I appreciate you bringing it up, but again, I mean, I think what Joe described and what Mark alluded to also. You know, I own 2 units in the lodge. You know, I spent a fair amount of money replacing my window units when the offer was made to me. Sounds to me like you were an owner at that point. You had the option to do that as well.
Yeah.
When we went through the budget, went through the financials, we have a line item for replacement of fogged windows. That's the only thing we've ever replaced is fogged windows. Or when they get broken by a random turkey that flies through the damn things. But
we replaced the pane of glass, not the window.
Yeah. So I mean, while I appreciate what you're requesting, I don't think that is what we've done historically. That those are fees that have been paid by owners, and that's the precedent that that is out there, and we've all paid. You're asking every owner to pay now for your window replacement, and from the pictures I saw, it looked to me like a lot of that was just damage windows have been left open and, you know, it's sun damage, rain damage. I mean, that's wear and tear and normal course of owner maintenance. And I think you'd have to replace that under your own expense.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your comments. Again, there is plain language in the covenants which differentiate what is owner responsibility and what is taco responsibility. Precedent doesn't change the plain language in the covenants. This is a 50-year-old window. You know, this is something that could be taken care of over time through a very methodical replacement process for all of the windows as they become end of life. Again, there's a plain language consideration, and you know, if people have not advocated for themselves effectively in the past in these situations, then that's on them. But you know, I've remodeled one condo. I'm familiar with sort of where the boundaries are between the owner's property and the common area for taco, and you know, I respectfully disagree with your interpretation.
In response to that, I cited 3 DCCR's articles. You're citing the language in one of them. In the other 2, there is language, plain language, as you say, that gives the board the authority to assess owners for replacement of certain common elements, and these windows would be in that category.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I don't have the covenants in front of me at the moment, but I'd say just proceed with your vote.
Well, we need to be open to any other discussion. Do we have any more board discussion or discussion from owners?
There's a question or a discussion from an owner.
Okay.
4505. We participated in upgrading our windows above, opening windows, and we understand that the responsibility for that mechanism falls on us at this point because we paid for that. But I would like clarification, very clear clarification. Do the windows in our units, do the doors in our units shy any upgrades that we have done? Do they belong to the individual owner or do they belong to Taco?
Yes, Stacy, do you want me to address that?
Go ahead, Joe.
Simply stated, Ron, the declarations state that it's the responsibility of the association to maintain the common elements. It's also the authority of the association in cases like this to assess the cost of those repairs or replacements to the owner who has sole use and sole responsibility for the maintenance or the proper usage of these units. It's a limited common element. To take this just a little bit further, one of the problems that's being brought forth by Mr. Barkis is that the windows are have been, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, have been damaged by weather, and because and it can be assumed, I don't know this for sure, but it can be assumed that that damage was caused by the windows, casement windows, just like these. This is what we're talking about right behind me, have been opened during rainstorms, during weather, left open by renters for who knows how long. So that's what we're kind of dealing with here. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
And I want to say that in section 9.1, the board can assign that maintenance responsibility to owners as long as it's done in a uniform manner. And I think that's very important here. If the board has assigned the cost of window replacement to owners for years, I would say decades, but I've only been here 10 years. Joe might know if decades applies. Then how is it fair to ask owners to now buy this window too? That's not uniform. No. And I think that's why section 11.5 exists, because if we were to do a large scale window project, let's say we decided to replace all the windows on the property, well, we would special assess owners based on the windows in their unit that were being replaced. And so if that were the case, then to then have owners pay for somebody who's asking outside of a big project, that's not uniform. That's not uniform. And I think that's why we have section 11.5, and I'll quote that section in case anybody's interested. These shall be assessed to owners according to their proportionate share for common expenses, which is how your assessments are done. Then it says, subject to the right of the association to assess only against owners of affected units. That it's just very clear. Our section 11.5 allows for us to do special assessments just to one owner or a group of owners for any construction, unexpected repair or replacement. The wording is exactly that. Did we have any other points to bring up?
Gary Gustafson raised his hand.
Yeah, what is the procedure to have windows replaced if they're cloudy?
You submit that to, does that go to you, Gary? You submit it to Gary and you get on a list. And we replace them. We budget a certain amount every year for fogged windows. And once that budget is exhausted, if yours haven't been replaced, then you go up the list and you're on it for next
Have we
year.
already exhausted the budget at this point?
I don't know where we are on that.
No, there was nothing in the budget last year, but
we reinstated it this year.
Reinstated it this
$30,000
year.
or something.
Yeah.
30,000.
Yes.
Okay.
People that are
Yeah,
on
it's
the
30,000 for the glass pane replacement this year, nothing last year.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else before we vote? All right, all in favor of Joe's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Chad?
Aye.
Any against? No. Motion carries.
We'll get
Andrew,
you
you've got about 2 minutes left.
Sure. So I would like to follow up on my records request that was made last month. I've received only a partial response, and obviously none was sent in the last 24 hours since I spoke with Greg.
I believe the items in question were 1 through 6, and they were all about the board member discussion and phone calls, text messages, any communication history pertaining to the request that you emailed us. And first of all, when an owner sends an email to the board, I answered it and I tried to give you full information. I did a lot of research because I don't like to answer emails off the top of my head. And so I explained to you using our documents and my discussions with board members, especially board members who with the historical knowledge and our staff, why the board does not replace windows. We would need to make those communications discoverable were an action taken. But there was no action taken. The action was taken in this board meeting and the full discussion was heard. And so if you want to have records behind this action, you would obtain it from this board meeting. That's per our council.
Okay. I guess our two respective councils disagree on this, and we'll have to work it out another time. So thank you.
Thank you. Safe travels on the road in Arizona. I think this concludes our meeting. I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
Oh, Greg is raising his hand.
Oh, Greg, sorry, you weren't on the screen. I could not see you. This is why I wish I could be there. in
Vote
person.
real quick before he says anything.
Hey, this is our annual meeting. Technically, is supposed to be the second week in September.
Thank you, yes.
But
Second Friday.
because of we would actually, have to do something if we still want to have it that what is it, the 4th and 5th?
Yes, this happened last year too. Memorial Day, the aligning of our annual meeting was not the second week because of the timing of the Memorial Day holiday. So we just have to vote to approve What is the date, Greg, of our meeting?
It'll be the board would meet on the 4th and the annual meeting would be on the 5th.
Now, is that
Thank
what's scheduled now? Okay.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so are you making a motion, Greg?
I think we might just to be safe.
So what?
well, we
what's the
voted on
issue?
that at the October meeting.
Yeah, what's the issue?
Yeah,
I'm just double checking.
if it's already scheduled there, we voted on that at the
we're
October
fine.
meeting, we're done.
We'll move on.
Yeah. If
Oh,
you
okay.
if
Gary,
you
is that-
change it, the unexpected consequence might be that the golf
I
tournament
was
on
just gonna say,
Saturday, Glacier may have already scheduled something on that and we'd be
I
out.
was simply bringing it up to
Yeah.
be safe.
I think because we did that last year, Joe, because it conflicts with our prescribed schedule for the owner meeting. So everybody thinks we're fine with our vote to approve the meeting schedule in October. Okay.
I'm
All
fine
right.
with it. I do have one other thing to add because I don't think it didn't get on the agenda and I'm sorry I didn't say this. But in the past, it's at this meeting where our former secretary, John Niebling, would bring forward the procedure for making nominations for the board elections in September and the schedule for that and getting a letter out for owners who would submit their names into nomination. Do we need to cover that or just send a letter out?
I'm sorry that did not make it to the agenda.
My fault. I should have thought of it before today.
Well, doesn't he normally just make the announcement basically that, hey, we're gonna get letters out and you need to get them back by, there'll be a date in that letter and you need to get your interest in participating on the board back to us by the deadline. I think that's all he ever did, Joe.
Right, and he established some dates, and I think it was like, get the nominating letter out by July 1st and ask for responses from prospective nominees by, say, within 3 weeks or so. And then that prepared us for the announcement of the annual meeting around the 1st of August.
We have that letter.
You do?
From last year.
Yeah.
I've just changed the dates on it.
Yeah, why don't
Greg
you
and I talked about
get it
this.
to Greg and so we
Yeah.
can get
I've got it.
it to Stacy and get it sent out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, we're covered then.
Thanks, Joe. All right, can I move forward with my motion to adjourn?
Can I move forward with my second?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, Chad.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned. Bye.
So Gary,
Yes.
that motion